For as long as Mehis could remember, the men in his family had been the local tough guys of Cunucula. Tot said that they had become tough guys over 150 years ago, when Rusika Kustas threw the then tough guy Halu Pearu over his hip at the Molika fair held in the neighboring village, and thus brought the title to the male line of the Peksu farm. By now, Kustas and Pearu since gone their separate ways, and several of the men's sons had gone to claim the title for themselves, but the bitter quarrels and big ram of the Peksu men always repelled the troublemakers. Last Saturday evening, however, when the whole family gathered in the large sauna of Peksu farm to celebrate Michaelmas, Mehis' father, local tough guy and title holder Hungu Hans, took the floor amid a good deal of steam and strong slangs. He spoke thus: "I see many mighty fists and powerful scythes here in the sauna room today, and it makes me happy that Peksu still has so much energy to show, but I am still speaking to you today with concern. The blood of Peksu, which today fills 7 Cunucula farms, is running thin. Helder, didn't your fleshy son Ego go to study at the large school in Tartu, Kamarayara?" That's right, goes the male chorus. "And Yagup, word is going around the village that your Mealy's was supposed to become a schoolmaster. Has anyone heard of a schoolmaster who knows how to fight?" No, the men hum in unison. "Shame is also creeping up on me," the burly bearded man continues, taking a sip of foam from the 3-liter beer mug. "There's a suitor from the capital circling around my Runikas. At first, I thought it was a sensible man, 2 front teeth missing and a badly bruised nose. But he says it happened while skiing. It's not the worst thing, young man, he'll learn to tame. But you know what kind of job a boy can have?" "I don't know, Hans. What job does he have, then?" asks bald Isa Oscar, who is sipping at least his 10th pint of beer from the 8-square-meter beer tap built into the sauna wall. "He's a master of verse. He writes poems." A hiss of indignation runs through the sauna guests. "Oh my, the misery of miseries, everything is miserable. That's all I need. Poems without rhyme. Where will this world come to when a man's strength is no longer a measure?" Hans's 87-year-old father exclaims angrily from the mat next to the stove. Silence. Hans's commanding voice booms across the sauna room. Young city lords moved to Verovesky farm in the spring. They came with their fancy tools and colorful clothes and immediately started sewing, immediately redoing everything. Do you know what the place is called now? Mahevsky Mahatalu. More like Pedevesky Pedatalu, in my opinion. Hans spits angrily at the stove. They spent the summer playing with half-naked girls in the fields. The boys were like pasta, only grooves and sharp corners. There were no bones. They would squeeze into a lump in your lap. I don't know how the little guys survived the winter. My older brother must have been a boxing champion from some foreign country, Isa Oscar says. He even brought home a gold title belt from Finland. Yes, they say in the village that they are quite tough guys. On Midsummer's Day, the 2 of them beat up the entire male family of the Vaivapulu farm. Ahurdi Yanis also adds in between. Old Yuhan went to see what kind of men they were, and Tanyel, the younger one, immediately hit them with his forearm. Yuhan went sideways into the ashes like a log and didn't even get up for 2 days. With a forearm? Is that how a man fights? It's a good thing he didn't pinch me and pull my hair. The countrymen are outraged. Silence, men. Hans again restrains the angry men. It's clear that this is serious. We all know that it's only a matter of time before the villagers start to doubt whether Peksu's men are still worthy of the title of local tough man. And mark my words, it won't be long before those rascals come to our yard looking for trouble. Let them come. We'll show them how Lucas brews beer, exclaims Hans's father, who has a great respect for beer and often becomes too violent under its influence, raising his huge kappa. Of course, we're still showing off. We have strength and there are many strong men. No man has yet been able to defeat a pack of genuine native bears with foreign tricks. But what will happen in 5 or 10 years when there are no more new, hard men? Don't take this honor away from us. The descendants of the Bone Cubs will bear this title. Now the sauna guests remain silent in anticipation. My own son, Mehis, is almost an adult, but he hasn't yet earned the title of man. yet I have my greatest hopes in him. I propose that next Saturday we all get together in the Field of Pain and organize a funeral for the boy. Everyone except 17-year-old Mehis shouts hooray with enthusiasm and waves his fist at the sauna ceiling. That has now been agreed upon. The autumn frost has turned the Field of Pain white, and Mehis' bare feet feel the sharp stain of cold. It's chilly. There are a good 2 hours until sunrise, and Mehis still feels the soft call of a warm straw bed in his bones. Why are we doing this? Goes through the young man's mind. The men of the Peksu farm thoroughly prepared for the upcoming ritual. Torches, there. 5 bales of silage spread out, there. A circle of countrymen with bare, plump torsos, sprawling, there. Everything is ready. A man steps onto the silage in the middle of the torches and the circle of men and throws off his linen V-neck jacket and his boots. A grandfather emerges from the mass of countrymen, holding a tin manger with goose fat, and begins to grease his grandson. This is the custom. When the boy has been nicely rubbed to a shine, the manger goes into a large circle and each man gets his share. At the same time, Isa Oscar places various weapon-like objects in seemingly random places on the silage site. A large bucket, a horseshoe, a broken pig trough, a log, a thick 1,000-page Bible, a pig-slaughtered axe, an empty toolbox, a rotten moose leg, a battered oar, an old wok, and a blunt-edged scythe. These, and many other useful utensils, are spread out onto the fresh silage. Mehis met Tanyel and Rustam in early spring, when the brothers had just moved to Cuno. The helpful young man guided the clearly lost city men to an old mill, pulled the brothers' fragile SUV out of the snow with his robust Belarus, and stayed for a while to drink coffee. That's where a friendly acquaintance began, which culminated in the city gentleman's offer to start training together. That's how it happened that the Terraced brothers, who are involved in Muay Thai, Judo, and lock wrestling, took young Mehis to train. Let's be honest, as always, it was really about the girls. Mehis, who wandered in nature and observed the world from a distance, would hardly have been particularly interested in martial arts if it hadn't been for the boy's older sister Kertu and her cheerful girlfriends. But what could he do? The city girls' cheerful flirtations, scantily clad bodies, crazy perfumes, and made-up face cloths shattered the young man's worldview. Every morning before going to the field, the shy young man dragged himself to the steps of the blood mill, put on his gloves, and joined the Steel Brothers. The man's slow mind was stuck in one place, but his body learned. Protect your head. Move, move. Get your feet moving. Now hook and knee right after. Doing the work, elbow to the face, left below, foot forward, mawashi guri, knee to the face, beating. In the 6 months it took for Mehis to get Kertu going, the boy became a fairly modest fighter, according to the brothers, but even they had to admit that he had potential. The tough but clumsy male body, accustomed to physical labor, turned out to be a good raw material for shaping a warrior. Mehis had something that many city men had long since abandoned, a blind, stubbornness. No matter how many times the boy fell flat on the mown grass, he always pulled himself up. Even when the young man could no longer raise his arms or move his legs, he stayed there under the hail of blows like an oak tree in a stormy wind and thought of Kertu's fiery eyes. This brother would probably fight to the death in the rain. Even the experienced Rustam praised Mehis' perseverance. Mehis explained the bruises, abrasions, and swollen face to his family by saying he had fought in front of the village shop or in the Lonsku tavern, and everyone, especially the head of the family, Hangu Hans, was very happy. Life was beautiful. Kertu dared not to tell anyone about it. Why am I here? This isn't for me, goes through Mehis' blonde head as his youngest aunt and her brother's son, bicycle dynamo Yalmar, steps into the middle of the circle of men. Yalmar's breasts are bigger and uglier than Kertu's, the boy states sadly, as his relative, 6 years older and at least half a ton heavier, throws off his sheepskin vest. I've got it, the boy thinks as he assesses the moving cart on the silage. My future. Ore man? Rock man? Moose man? Please no. But alas, as usual, The boy has been dozing for too long, and already his cousin, with bloodshot eyes, is rushing towards him, snorting. I don't want to, Mehis thinks in despair, and notices with surprise how the ball of his left leg, bent at the knee, hits the attacker in a semi-arc from mid-jump and sends him sprawling on the frosty meadow. The gathered villagers, their hands on the ground, are so stunned by what has happened that it takes half a minute before someone from the back row shouts again. But Hjalmar is no longer interested. The prodding is fruitless, and the bewildered Hans is forced to shout, "Next." Mehis' mother's brother, Ruby Sulev, steps forward, holding the expected long oven rope. Mehis watches anxiously as his uncle, with a chest-length mustache, twirls the rope above his head and makes furious pig-squeaking noises. It's his war cry, his "Umira." And even though Mehis' heart would like to simply force the boy into a squat and take his head protectively between his hands, instincts vigorously intervene, and faster than anyone could say, "Shit, wake up," Sulev is already lying on the silage, suffocating from the strangulation. Forced scum, Ruby Sulev manages to squeeze out the last bit of oxygen through his teeth before Mehis' iron grip sends him flying straight into the land of nightingales. With a sad look, Mehis looks at his uncle's limp body on the ground and thinks about Ego, a student at Kamara Yura Mealy's, the future schoolmaster, and his sister, the poet cavalier. It's also possible in another way. This doesn't have to be his fate here. The bewilderment of the countrymen is gradually being replaced by indignation. Already someone is shouting from somewhere behind, "What are you talking about? Try fighting like a man." That's not right. Doesn't he have a bunch of bird glue on his hands to tear Sulev down like that? "Shut up," Hans shouts sternly. The next man steps forward. When young Mehis was just starting to court Kurtu, who was a few years older than him, he was content with his life. Small things were enough to make him happy. Early morning dew in a meadow, the wind through an elk's fur scratching at the trunk of a large oak tree, a pleasantly fresh drizzle, or July afternoon drizzle, that makes even animals sluggish. That's all he needed. The world was complete, simple, and beautiful, but in the back room of the blood mill, sweating and happy, talking to a warm girl's body between sheets, not straw, but soft blue sheets, a whole new world was revealed to him. Kurtu told the boy about life in the capital, clubs, cafes, shopping centers, the dirty but oh so delicious Zugleplatz burger, Stockholm cruises, the zoo, public transportation, and 1,000 other small aspects of city life, and a great longing arose in Mehis' chest for this unknown, colorful, and effervescent world. The days of racing with earth and stones, limping behind the plow, slaughtering rams and other farm chores suddenly seemed somehow very dull and insignificant, and the young man's soul began to crave new experiences. The moon in the meadow of torment is chaotic, Mehis almost blindingly shining with the white goose-fat and sweat of the torches, stands on a muddy, tarred silage, bellowing, while the men drag another peasant out of the circle of 8 and throw him into the pit. That's the custom. The violent and painfully groaning pit now consists of 8 men. Mehis worked them downwind with the same dull mechanicalness that Isa Oscar earns his daily bread by covering cans at the Rapina cannery. The crowd of men is buzzing like an upside-down beehive. Already camps are starting to form, exchanging increasingly bitter insults. Men gather around Isa Oscar, who have begun to consider Mehis to be a reincarnation of the missing Rusika Kusta. However, the group of men surrounding Prusy Helder in a semicircle, and who are much more furious, think that it is time to finally knock the boy out with a hammer and finally end this farce. Now Hanku Hans, struggling with mixed feelings, catches his father's long gaze. Yes, men understand each other completely. This is it now. It has always been this. It can't be any other way. Hans raises his Hangu towards the already quite bright October sky and roars. Enough. The villagers, who had already gathered by hand, freeze in place in fright, when the Kaiki of Kaikis, the grey-waisted man himself, the 100-fist archer and local tough man, Hangu Hans, leaps into the middle of the torchlight circle with a high arch. "Man," he shouts, looking at his son with a mixture of pride and wonder, "today I've seen a side of you I never thought I would have. You've taken down 8 mighty Peksu men without a scratch, and although these foreign men are not to my taste, you don't seem to have any equal here today." "Dad, that's enough. But," Hans interrupts his son, "since the days of Rusi Kusta, no Peksu man has escaped unscathed from his cross. That's not the way. You have the strength, but now you must learn humility under my guidance." Having said this, Hans slams his fist into the ground on the edge of the ring and stands against the man with his bare hands. "Dad, I didn't mean to." "You want to be called Fistman? Fine, the name is yours. Just be a man and take it." Hans spreads his spade-like hands as if he wants to hug his son one more time. "I don't want to. I really want to go home." With the agility of a plow ox, the head of the Peksu family rushes forward, but where the boy stood a moment ago, only the young man's leg is waiting for him, on which the man immediately trips and falls to the ground with a loud thud. "Dad, I didn't mean to. Let me." Mehis reaches out to his father, who is working on the silage, but the bull man only growls and throws himself at the boy again. The earth shakes with shock as Mehis throws his father over his head with a judo move, 7.5 on the Richter scale. "Listen, I'm not going to hit you, Dad." But Hans doesn't give up. Outside the circle of torches, a full-scale mass brawl has broken out. Brother no longer knows brother, nor young man an old man. Whoever stays within striking distance gets their own kusa. There, Toivelem hits Panji Hugo, who is brandishing a bucket, on the head with a large ladle, while next to them, Isa Oscar desperately tries to drag Hans's father close by the beard, until Prusy Helder's precise blow takes away his consciousness and his front teeth. Even the loser's right seems to have formed a separate invalid and is wrestling, beating and scrambling at full speed. "Damn, let me talk for once," Mehis shouts at his father, who is attacking for the 20th time without changing his tactics. "Oh, you devil, let me talk, you evil spirit." The father flies out of the circle, knocking the torches down, but immediately gets up and starts attacking again. Perhaps this stubbornness really came from Rusika Kusta himself, though Mehis' father and grandfather, because it is clear that Hans will not stop. Never. The dry silage catches fire from the overturned torches, and soon a smaller firestorm surrounds the obese and grease-covered fighters. Mehis finally realizes that there is only one way to stop his scheming and sooty father, and when Hans charges in, like a battering ram again, he knocks the man flat with 2 bangs, and then again, and again, and then once more, and once more. "Don't get up, Dad. Let it be." Hangu Hans, whose best days in middle age are far behind him, drags himself to the center of the circle on his hands and knees and manages to get up on one knee with a superhuman effort of will. His spirit is ready, but his weak body can no longer bring the other leg with him. The battered strong man defiantly throws his head back and then meets Mehis' warm and compassionate gaze. The robust face flickers for a moment, and then a smile appears on his swollen lips and iron-gray eyes. A happy, tired smile. "My own son, I'm so glad. My time is on one side, but you, Mehis," Hans, who has found new strength, now rises to his knees. "You, Mehis, Rusika Mehis, are now the master of Peksu and the local tough man of Kolnukula." Hans lets his gaze wander over the sneakers and the men fighting in the flames. "Don't worry, you're ready. I'm proud of you. Put it away, son. Put it away for me." Hans spreads his arms wide and thrusts his chin forward in anticipation for the final blow. "Enough already. Enough of this nonsense. No one is a tough guy," Mehis barks heartily. "Look around. 100 obese brutes, covered in goose fat, wallowing in burnt-out silage in the meadow early on a Saturday morning. Show me a tough guy here, Dad. Show me a tough guy here. I won't do it again." Even a little taken aback by his own audacity, Mehis continues in a calmer tone. Kurtu and I are moving to the capital. I'm going to study marketing for technical materials, and we're going to get an apartment in Kalamaya for 2 and a guinea pig. It's been decided. I'm almost a Pazel already, but I've never eaten live city food. Taken out a payday loan, tried a condom, or ridden a trolley bus. I've only fought all the time. Only fought. It helps me. You're the last one, Dad. The title is yours. I don't want it. A crushing silence falls on the meadow of torment. Even the fire has gone out. The villagers, in a murderous stupor, watch wordlessly as Mehis gallops off into the distance, and then, in the first rays of the sun, begin to scatter awkwardly to the Saturday editions. My God, mutters Prusy Helder, stuffing frosted soil into his swollen nostril as he walks, as is his custom. He really is reborn in Rusika Kusta. In the smoking silage arena, amidst the extinguished torches, only Hangu Hans and his old father remain behind. The hunk with milky white hair and a beard steps in front of Hans, who is still kneeling with his arms outstretched, and puts his hand on his shoulder. Rest now, my son. You have earned this honor. Our time is at hand, he says almost gently, and slams his huge ash-wood beer mug on the man's head. With a sigh of relief, Hans sinks forward into the darkness, and his father, old Kappa Adu, carefully catches him and takes his son's head in his arms. The golden rays of the rising sun caress the white-haired old man's neck as he tenderly strokes the graying hair of his unconscious son. It's clear that a beautiful autumn day is about to begin.